I didn't start my video. You need to write number 2 in chapter 7. That was the only thing I said in the video. Or I didn't say in the video. So most of these you should actually be able to fill out completely on your own without me saying anything, because it becomes so similar, which again goes to the fact of it's really important to know these in the beginning. So what is our generic 4-step process going to be for? Using sampling distribution of X bar. I didn't plan out my space very well. For what? To do what? Find probability. And also, don't know if I said it until my other class, I've got 72 of these of every single one we do flying around. I would probably take the time to write your name on it. All right, so state. We're going to start with what? Population. And all I'm going to write beside of that is finding context. Second thing I'm going to write is sample. I also want to find context. So now this is the first part where it technically changes. My next line is going to say what? Now, technically, if I defined either one, I would be okay. But we usually define the one for the population. And what's the first word going to be? Now, this time it's going to change. Now it's going to be mean. That's a lot of extra. Mean, whatever in context. And then so the last part, so I define what I need to define and say what I'm going to do. We're finding a probability. So what do I write right here? Find, and then what does it start with? P parentheses. And what has to be somewhere in there? An X bar. So just like before, I'm writing it as though it's two-tailed. But it can be one-tailed, it can be two-tailed. So the only thing that changes there is I'm defining mu instead of p, which is a mean. And I'm finding the probability of where X bar is as opposed to where P hat is. All right, so we're going to plan. First thing we check is what? Which is, now I'm going to, part of the reason why I want years out is like, sometimes I might write in whatever here, and sometimes I might write it there. If you write it the exact same way every single time, it's going to be helpful to you. So like I would try to copy the exact same format that you read it the first time. So which is capital N is greater than or equal to 10 times lowercase n. And then I do what there? Plug in your actual numbers. Which number are you actually going to plug in?
Sample size.
You're actually going to plug in your sample size. If that helps to write it there, that's fine. And then for your class, I wrote just write out in context. So I don't care which way you choose to do it. If you just say write out in context. My other class chose to instead say, so there are at least, and then ... context, because it's going to stay that format every time. So like if you would rather be more specific. You just write one of those. My next condition is what? So now we have two different options. Our first option is the problem's going to do what? It's going to tell us that which one? Stated what is normal? Which distribution? And so I will count off if you just say stated normal and don't say that it's the population distribution that is stated normal. And then you might want to write it as like or. The other way we're going to go with is by central limit theorem. If lowercase n is greater than or equal to 30. So in a actual problem here, you would either write stated that the population distribution is normal, or you would write n is whatever this, and this is greater than or equal to 30, so by central limit theorem. But we always end with, I probably should have written those in orange, because those change if you care about that. This 1 and 2, I probably should have written in orange. So then I have to write what? So we can use normal approximation. And that's why I wish I would have done that in orange. So this part right here is going to be what can change, because it's only going to be one of those. No, you would like so. You would get to normal and you would say, and then that's all. It's like that would be your whole line for that. So do what are things that are going to come directly from the problem? Lowercase n. What else is it going to give us as of right now for this type of problem? What? And it's going to give us one other thing. It's got to give us the standard deviation. That should be everything. And then, what all did I write here before? Did I just write N and P? I'll make this point as I write. So what's the first thing I need to find? Which equals, and then you just plug in your number. And then the next thing I find is what? Which is the general equation of and then you're plugging in your numbers, find an answer. What should I write beside that? And then I go into P parentheses. What goes in the middle again? Right here. So it starts out as X bar. We now have to find the what for each X bar, or for each of these numbers. Z-score. So I'm writing it once, but it's probably going to be done more than once. Just like before, if you would prefer to write A's and B's with certain things of these, I know that standard deviation has to go on the bottom. I know that whatever mean I find has to be the second thing. If you're forgetting that, write it. If you're good with it, then you're fine. And so that's what goes up here. I'm just rewriting it in terms of Z now. Find the area, draw, shade it, and find the answer. Just because I usually like to make a point of this, Sullivan and I usually do like literally the exact same thing, and we still cover the exact same thing every day. She doesn't use these sheets that I use. So like if you're working with somebody from her class, which is absolutely fine, they just don't have these little templates that we use, but they do the same information. I usually just like to tell you if we do things that they don't do, or the other way around. All right, so the only thing we have not written is conclude. Am I good to change slide? So remember, I always start with my kind of sarcastic, okay, we say we believe you. So that part is what? If we were to what? Randomly select. That's important because it's not biased. That's important so that we can generalize the population. If we were if we were to randomly select, how many who? How did I write last time? Specific individuals. And again, some people think of that as population, and that's fine, but you're thinking of them as plural, so that's why I do it that way. And the second part of our sarcastic statement is we're also assuming that we do what? That we believe them that this is the actual true number. And I'm coming right back. But the second part is, now tell me this answer. So we just write it in words. So that answer is a probability. I mean, I guess technically is there. I've never had anybody ask about that. The claim is versus what we're testing. I mean, but technically, yes, what you're saying is right. But then you don't use it for proportion. I've never thought about that. Yeah, I mean, technically, yes, you're right. Then the what? What did I write right after this for the last one? Probability that what? I'm going to go ahead and write the mean here. And it's still number and direction we're looking for in context. But it's the mean of that instead of the proportion of. The proportion of is kind of in context. I think that would just help y'all to go ahead and write mean there. And it just ends with Ends with what? Is number.